Good morning, Pastor Mark. My name is Jack Schipper, and my wife and I are neighbors of Jim and Jane Quist, a couple of your members. We have visited your church on a couple of occasions and even discovered some old friends from Granville Avenue CRC who now worship with you. Thank you for your sermon on the Heidelberg Catechism. I would like to share a story, my story, about the Heidelberg Catechism and the impact it made on my life. I didn't grow up as a Christian. My parents, however, were not opposed to going to church or being religious. My dad fought in World War II, so he believed strongly in the freedom to make your own choices. I can probably describe my parents at that time as cultural Christians. They were very honest, moral, and patriotic people. I remember learning the Lord's Prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance in grade school, and on Fridays there would be a couple of ladies who would come to school with their flannel board and flannel graphs and teach us Bible stories. This was in the public school system at that time, and I really liked those Bible stories. Consequently, because of those early influences, I grew up with what I called a God consciousness. I believed there was a God. I would even pray to him. Sometimes I would even read the Bible. Sometimes I would go to church with friends and attend neighborhood vacation Bible schools. During my high school years, I met a girl. She is now my wife of 53 years. Her name is Mary Ellen. Long story short, I finally got the nerve to ask her out for a date. We dated off and on for a while, and then finally I asked her to go steady, and we exchanged class rings. Going steady was like what they call today being in a relationship. When her parents realized that our relationship was becoming very serious, they weren't happy. They did not want their Christian daughter going with an unbeliever. After arguing with her parents, being the obedient daughter she was, she told me that we had to break off our relationship because I was not a Christian and I didn't go to church. To her surprise, I told her that I wouldn't have a problem going to church with her. Besides, that would give us another time to be together. Of course, her parents weren't happy with that because they figured that all I was doing was trying to please them so I could continue to date her. And for the most part, they were right. We started going to church together on Sunday, and then we started attending catechism classes on Wednesday evenings, another day out. Wednesday evening catechism was a staple in the CRC back in those days. God had everything under control. As I attended catechism on Wednesday evenings, I began to discover what being a Christian was all about. I really began to look forward to catechism on Wednesday nights. I couldn't get enough of it. Mary Ellen's Christian friends thought I was crazy. I actually liked the catechism. God was using the catechism to bring me into a relationship with Jesus Christ. I learned about my sin and how I stood condemned. I learned about the person and work of Jesus Christ and how he had delivered me from my sin. And I learned how I can really live in gratitude for what Jesus has done for me. I am glad that the Heidelberg Catechism is one of our three forms of unity. I hope it always will be. Question and answer one is, of course, the most memorized of the Catechism, and rightfully so, because it is the gospel in a nutshell. It was for me a mission document, for through it I came to know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Perhaps the old form of the Catechism is not conducive to modern teaching techniques, but the content is just as important today as the day in which it was written. Question and answer one proves that. I hope that as you preach through the Catechism, your congregation might come to appreciate it more and more. And for those who perhaps have never heard about it, will discover Jesus at an even deeper level than they ever have before. Thank you again for your sermon on the Heidelberg Catechism.